Now
They can just see us looking
now
ridiculous.
Now they can hear.
Oh, whoops.
Hello, social media.
Stay with us. We'll be going live in about 30 seconds.
Is it on my page yet?
Hang on, I'm looking.
It's about a 25-second delay there with Facebook.
All right, now I'm going to look stupid again.
No, you don't. You never look stupid.
Well, I'm going to be why I'm searching for this on my page.
I think I can find it on mine, Lisa. I just got to find it on my phone.
There we go.
Welcome to Lisa's Changing Perceptions. Lisa is the creator of Changing Perceptions. Through life experience, she's discovered that we all suffer internal wounds that guide us. We live in a society that puts a label and expectation on everything and everyone. So many are in constant battle with themselves, never winning the war or ever feeling good enough. Lisa's Changing Perceptions is a show that offers tools and guidance that will assist you in discovering you and unlocking the chains of pain that bind you. A little bit of grace this morning on a cold, cold morning. Welcome in, everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, everybody.
We're trying to get the social media thing going, switching pages around and clicking likes, and I am just, Kat and I were talking about this. I am just not technology savvy. Not my gig. That's why I hit children, as I tell my daughters who need to help me with my technology. So good morning, everybody. Thank you. Welcome. I'm Lisa with Lisa's Changing Perceptions, a self-empowerment coach, diplomaed hypnotherapist, and certified NLP practitioner. And we come here each week to try and offer some inspiration, some tools to work with. And once a month, my beautiful friend Julie in Vail, Colorado joins me. And we do Lisa and Julie. It's all about grace.
Oh, and we forgot that Lisa's Changing Perceptions brought to you through the financial support of our good friends at Natural Therapy Wellness Center. Check them out at www.mchenrymassage.com or 815-385-8190.
And we do offer classes in professionalism for anybody.
I'm excited about that sponsor. Tell me about what they do.
You name it, they do it. Massage therapy, reflexology, acupuncture, Thai yoga massage. All of their staff are licensed massage therapists. So if you carry some stress between your, shoulders or your back, you can go in there and they will.
Or ears.
Yeah, ears. They do. I mean, it's a great place, and they do a lot of good work and a lot of stuff for people.
Sounds like a one-stop wellness shop.
It sure is. So this is my beautiful friend Julie, and like I said, we do once a month. We do Lisa and Julie. It's all about grace, and we come on and spill kind of our ick out to you and our good out to you. And I'm grateful that Julie comes on once a month. And I'm going to have her introduce herself in just a moment. I have two announcements that I need to make. One is very excited. The downloads will be being worked on this month. Those are going to be offered sometime in the very near future. We'll make sure that it's well known when we do. But we're going to be offering downloads of self-hypnosis and different techniques that I do in the office that you can do at home in the privacy of your own home and your own comfort.
In your own home, not in your car, people.
Right, correct. Unless you're sitting in the woods like I do, then if you're parked. But you can do self-hypnosis and do a lot of the techniques that I do in the office, and those are going to be available for you to download here from the station. We're going to keep them very affordable at $9.99 to $14.99 a piece. And I'm so excited. Hopefully within this next few weeks, we'll be able to have those out and available, or at least some of them. We're going to keep building the library, so to speak, for them. So just a reminder that those are coming out. And then the other thing, because I want to get people on board, or if you have friends or family that may need this show, in particular on February 6th, I am going to have a guest by the name of Barbara Decker, and she runs an organization called Love Another Way. I talked to her the other day to talk to her about see if she wanted to be on the show and get to know each other. And I literally was crying. Like she has the best energy and she is the most loving person. And I was embarrassed that my empath was so out in me that I'm literally crying as I'm talking to her about why I believe in what she does so much. It was incredible. She focuses on the parents of adult addicts. So she helps the parents to develop a life again and to see their role in the family dynamic and their
Nice.
role in the enabling or codependency or whatever it should be in different dynamics. And she helps parents to understand the addiction of their adult child and to also understand how they can have a life separate from it again as well, and helps to heal their wounds that came within it. She's the most fabulous, beautiful woman. And literally, I was in tears because she's like, of course, she gets me, what made you get into this? And then, of course, I start telling my story, which I'll tell on the air a little bit over time. And I'm literally crying because you just want to reach to the phone and hug her. So she's going to be coming on February 6th to talk about Love Another Way. If you know somebody who is struggling with a child or a family member in addiction, or somebody who's in recovery and needs some assistance in dealing with the aftermath of that, please tell them to tune in on February 6th. If you don't listen any other time, which I hope you do, please listen on February 6th. This woman has a completely outside the box new way of doing things. And when I was watching her videos and she was talking, it was like she was speaking my brain, and I was so excited.
That is cool. Shayna, good morning. She says, "Yay, Julie, morning, ladies," and maybe a link for that gal, maybe
For Love Another Way.
Yeah.
If I was that organized, I would have.
Okay.
She's on Facebook. She's named Barbara Decker on Facebook.
There you go. And Eric Bam says, "Good morning. No bedazzled pants today. Hurt my back yesterday."
Oh, no.
Yes.
Yeah, he always has bedazzled pants.
I'd like to see those.
Oh, careful with Eric, what you're asking for on screen. Careful. Eric's the wild one. So, Julie, tell us who you are real quick. For those of you that are just tuning into Elisa and Julie, it's all about Grace Day. Introduce yourself.
My name is Julie Adrianson, and Lisa and I have been friends for many, many, many moons. I'm an artist, and I live in Colorado. Lisa and I grew up in the same town. We didn't know each other as little kids, but we knew each other as adults, met each other as adults many years ago. So that's what I do. That's where I am, and I'm freezing this morning. I have my half gloves on and a scarf and socks and boots on in my living room. I live in beautiful Vail, Colorado, and I'm thankful for it every day. But it wasn't without work to get here for sure.
And Julie is also a fabulous, unique, I call her an aura reading portrait artist. And if you would like to see some of her art, where would you see that at?
JulieAdriansonArt.com. You can see the spelling of my name on the screen because it's not super easy to spell. ADRIANSEN. JulieAdriansonArt.com. I'm a watercolorist and I paint animals and people.
And when you see her art, you'll know what I'm talking about as far as Julie is an empathic auric reader artist. Her animal portraits and what have you are in beautiful, phenomenal colors. And I remember one day I was talking to her and she goes, I don't know, I'm just looking at the picture of the animal and then I just see the colors. And I was like, oh, I know what you're doing. And she's an aura reader and she hasn't totally come in tune with it. They're phenomenal. They're unique. They can just send you some different pictures, right? And then you do a painting off of the pictures that they send if they want to say gift somebody.
That's exactly right. I just have people email me a few pictures, and from those pictures, I paint your pet. I just mailed out 2 this week, and I'm very, very blessed and lucky. They're usually received with tears of joy. So I'm very, very, and I love to paint them. And I have to say, I fall in love a little bit with each one of them. Some of them are hard to let go.
Well, and that's the empathic part of you reading those energies and getting attached.
Yeah.
So go check out Julie's site. She does some really unique work. And thank you for being here this morning. So we were kind of chit-chatting this week, and we didn't really get into great detail about what we're going to talk about. My hair is weird today. We didn't really get into depth about what we were going to talk about, but we kind of mentioned that we were going to talk about the opposite of the resolutions. And what if the different ways, I guess, are examples of what if the problem is the blessing, or the struggle is the blessing, kind of thing. And I was telling her, I kept hearing people's New Year's resolutions, and although they're positive, I get it that they want to do something positive. The way it was worded and the way that they were termed were so self-defeating. Like, I'm going to do this, this, and this because, this year I wasn't good enough, kind of sounding thing, versus looking for, I'm going to remove something. What if we remove something? Isn't it easier to remove something from our life that we don't want?
Sometimes.
So it would seem.
Lawyers are expensive, but it's
That's
still
right.
possible.
But it's still possible. Shayna has a question. She
Okay.
says, what are we understanding grace to be? Kent's show earlier this week with the attempt to define deserve has me trying to clarify what it means to others. What say you two?
I understand. Julie can give her definition. My definition for grace for me is learning to take the good and the bad, the success and the failure, the ass kicking and the victories, and finding a way to laugh, smile, and say, okay, I'm going to take my learnings from that and move forward and do it without hate and vengeance. Do it without victimhood. That's my idea of it anyway. Jules, what about you?
The definition of grace in the dictionary says grace, simple elegance or refinement of movement. She moved through water with effortless grace. I think grace is acceptance. I think that's another word for grace, acceptance and trust that what you're going through and what you're willing to go through will get you to where you want to be. I had this feeling for a long time that many people that I was closely related to, and maybe still do, go through life like this. We used to call it with your dukes up. Does that make sense? Anybody recognize that old saying, put your dukes up? I feel that it's unclenching your hands and opening them up to receive whatever it is. And sometimes knowing in your heart that some of that isn't going to be pleasant, but it's all a part of the process. So I think grace is synonymous with acceptance.
Nice. Right. And it's sometimes it can be difficult to not have anger or vengeance or envy or jealousy, or, you know what I mean? All of these things. But that's kind of part of what we were talking about. And I'd like to talk about today is that people look at those energies or what have you, and they criticize themselves for having them. And to me, they're still a natural emotion or a natural thing. What if instead of criticizing ourselves, we said, oh, what is this showing me?
Mm-hmm.
What is this showing me? And to me, that is part of grace for self, is to say, hey, wait a minute, this emotion that I'm feeling isn't wrong. It just came up. It's not like I chose. Not like I chose to feel this, but it did come up. And because I have respect for myself and I have respect for my feelings, I'm going to ask myself, why am I feeling this? What is this trying to show me? Is it trying to show me a hurt that I feel? Is it trying to show me, a thing to remember? Is it trying to show me what I need to let go of? The same thing with what people consider failure. What if failure is the blessing? Truly, what if failure is the blessing? What if failure is telling you missed a step that'll make it so much better? What if failure is telling you, this is a great thing I know you enjoy, but it's not your path or direction. There's really something better.
Right.
What if letting go of those things is the blessing? And I talk to people about that a lot because they're like, well, I don't understand why I can't have X, Y, Z happen. And so I reverse it for them and okay, don't tell me what you want in your life. We all know what we want in your life. They could, I was teasing the other day. I said, I want a hot guy who serves me coffee, tells me I'm pretty, and cleans the house. Right? We all know what we want. We all have the fantasy thing of what we want. Sometimes we're realistic, sometimes we're unrealistic. Not that mine was unrealistic, for the record. But what if, when you can't figure it out, because what happens a lot of times when we say, what do we want? We tend to get in the mindset of the big picture or the fantasized picture. You know what I mean? Where it's so big. What if we said, okay, you know what? To narrow it down, I'm going to make a list of what I don't want.
I like that.
I'm going to make a list of what I don't want. I don't what I did it for this year for 2022 because it's funny because people are talking about our 2022 is the big year for everything. And we even talked about it. Kent and I talked about last week where my goal is to buy a house this year. And he said, "Do you have your house picked out down to exactly what you want?" And I said, "No, not at all." I found when I did my list that my list ended up being more emotional based than physical things. And I found myself saying after I made my list of I don't want energy vampires in my life. I don't want people who don't have respect for my over empathetic way of being. I don't want people who manipulate my emotional base. I don't, you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
took the things that I don't want out of my life. I don't want unbalanced relationships in my life in any form. And I sat and I made that list of what I don't want. So then when I decided to make the list of what I do want, when I went to go look at the house, I said, I want a house of balance. I want a house that people feel welcomed. And when they're there, they feel home.
Right.
They feel safe. I want, and so, and I said, oh, okay. Then I went, well, how big would it have to be? Like, it never, when I started saying, what do I want? I found myself never looking at the physical form of what it was going to be. It was more of what it was going to bring to my life now that I removed the what I don't want. Because when I removed the truth of what I don't want, sometimes removing what we don't want can be difficult because it means we're letting go of something that we're comfortable with, even though it's not good for us, right? And I found there was so much space for all these, oh, but wouldn't this be nice? Oh, wouldn't that feel good? And it was more about what it felt for me than it was what it looked like, if that makes sense. Go ahead, Jules. I'll talk the whole show. You know it, sister.
No, it's all good. And I think you're right. And maybe that's a necessary step. I had this conversation with my husband a lot. He's not a list maker. You know how at the beginning of the year, we talk about, I'm not a resolution person. I think it sets you up for, I don't know, sure failure. I don't know why, but I am a goal maker though. And I'm one of those people that believe that you're more likely to achieve something if you write it down. I like to write things down, and Chris just isn't. And I say to him a lot, what do you want? And his first knee-jerk reaction is, I don't know. I don't know. And sometimes I just, and I said, well, how are you going to get what you want if you don't know? And maybe you just opened a great path of discussion for us tonight, much to his chagrin. What do you not want? What don't you want?
Right.
That's super. It's a great path for that, getting there at least, because maybe just making a I don't want list will naturally lead into, well, I must want something opposite of that or something contradictory to that.
Or at least it starts you with the core, because if you can make a list of the things that you don't want, and you can just be honest with yourself, these are the things I don't like that I have, or these are the things I know I don't like, or what have you. And what you're doing is after you're done with that, when you're honest with it, and it's just a conversation. You know what? When you say what you don't want, you're not hurting anybody because it's coming from within you. You know what I mean? And when you do that, then you can stop and go, okay, well, what's left? I listed everything I don't want. What's left? Right. And you can kind of like see what's left and go, okay, this is my starting point. These are the things I choose to keep. These are the things that I love in my life about myself, or, whatever it is. These are my starting points. And then truthfully, just let it be just that. Because what you've done now is you've made space, and then you've acknowledged what you do like and what you have. Now let it grow. Because now you've got space for things to come into it, and you're open to have things come into it. Right. And let it grow and let it ponder.
I like it.
Like I've said a million times, if you would have told me 10 years ago that I'd be sitting at this table in tears talking to a woman because of her viewpoints on addiction and family of addiction and how much it was heartfelt to me and all these things, I would have said, shut up. There is no way I would have anything to know about any of that. I wouldn't have, I had no, it wasn't that I didn't care. It wasn't my path.
Right.
I was running animal hospitals. You know what I mean? Like, I was a wholly different human being. And then when my life shattered, sometimes it takes that. Sometimes it takes us really shattering. Julie and I had a conversation the other day, and she said, but can you really change your core values? And my opinion was yes, because when my world shattered, my core values did change. my perception of what was important changed. My priority, I guess I shouldn't say core values, what I valued and what I prioritized changed immensely.
Right.
And so that's the thing, is what if the struggle is the answer to the prayer?
Right.
And see, now there's ignorant people out there that have actually said this to me. So you mean it was a good thing your husband died?
No,
Shut up. Just,
I'm going to get more coffee on
yeah,
that
I don't
one.
have 5 minutes to even waste of my life for you. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
don't say that. But my point is that what if sometimes those struggles and those times, no matter what it is, of shattering is the blessing, is God's prayer or spirit, whatever way
Well,
you want to look at it, being answered.
well, yeah. Losing someone is never a good thing. Can we learn something good from it? Absolutely. And like I say, you know, so far there has, there's a lot of people in my life that have passed, and I think that you think of them more frequently when they have passed.
Agreed.
So
Isn't that sad?
I don't it's from a human
It's
standpoint,
life.
I think it is, right. But I was very close with my grandma and grandpa, and there's not when they were around, it was like, oh, okay, but then there's not a week that goes by in the last 20 years where I go, huh, think of them, or something crosses my mind about them, or how they did. Same thing. Our dear friend Pete passed a couple months ago, and it's kind of the same thing. I swear at him a lot, but anyway.
That's right. I throw things at my husband's urn.
Yeah.
But my life shattering at that moment allowed me to realize the things that I had carried in my life that I didn't even realize I didn't want. If that makes sense. Like, I didn't realize I didn't want them until I realized, when that happened, the guilt and the shames
Yeah.
and things that I carried, and went, oh my gosh, I was not grateful. Oh my, I didn't realize how good I had
Yeah.
it. I didn't realize, and a lack of appreciation that I had. And so I look at that um moment, we'll just call it a moment because people focus on his
Hmm.
death, but that moment where my whole life shattered and I was screaming, how am I going to do this? How am I going to survive this? How am I, my daughters are 12 and 17. How am I going to tell them? And, all these things were happening in those moments. And before, and I did turn off life support. So there was
Yeah.
a time of a
Oof.
day, that day where I went through all the realizing of the earth shattering lack of gratitude that I had, and how hardened I kind of had become over the years. And I am grateful now looking back. Was it painful? Was it horrible? Absolutely. I was probably as close to a true blue, not being sarcastic, mental breakdown
Yeah.
than I've ever been in my life. And now I look back at those moments, and it's he left me a blessing.
Yeah.
Um,
Shayna says, did the core value change, or did you just receive the clarity you needed to live on?
It's
That's a
hard
good.
to tell. I don't know that I can answer that 100%. I can tell you my entire perspective of life changed. Truly. I don't know that there was an aspect of it that really didn't change in some way, shape, or form. Um, some some where I was grateful for who I was and the strength that I had, and the mother, truly, that I had been, and the daughters that I had already raised, and then some that were, it was shame and guilt. I mean, I like, of having a lack of gratitude. I really, and it's funny now because now being out in the dating world at this age, I really have a gratitude for my how wonderful my husband was, because people are different now, and it changed my whole perspective of what was important. I was much more materialistic. I was much more controlling. I was um, I was somebody who, it did matter how other people saw it, and the first voice in my head about something wasn't mine ever. Um, it was really different, and then everything shattered. And I look at that as when I knew I had to kind of get my world started again, so to speak. I did the what don't you want? Well, I don't want to be selfish, and I don't want my walls to be so high. I don't want to take things and people for granted. I don't want to have these walls around my heart where I don't feel just because I'm safe. And it was really the things of saying, what don't you want? Um, to make me see and feel and realize what I did want. And it changed my whole life. And I mean, it doesn't always have to take something as earth shattering, as that. I say the same thing about the passing of my son. That what did he leave? He left a better mother, for my daughters, because I never appreciated the idea of the blessing, um, and the responsibility and the love involved in being a mom. So I say, what did your son leave behind in his short time? A better mother. What did your husband leave behind? A better person, truly, and a better partner. And it's funny because when I started dating again, some people questioned it, and they're like, what about your husband? I said, I live for my husband. Everything I do that's better is for my husband.
Right.
In my eyes, he doesn't die. He didn't die. His energy is still here. His energy is still here within me and everything that I changed and learned because of him and my children. So the point in that is, sometimes, what if the things that we push, fear, and run from are exactly what's supposed to say, but wait a minute, I'm just trying to break you open.
And that's a great term, Lisa, break you open.
Right. Because what if you hadn't been as uncomfortable as you were where you were? Would you have done what you did to get to Colorado?
No. I mean, I always wanted to, but I don't know if I would have had that push. But I think, Lisa, these things also make you recognize or finally see the strength you have in yourself. Had you would have ever acknowledged or realized what a strong woman you are, how much you have to give the world, and I mean the world, as we speak on the radio this morning with who knows how many hundreds of thousands of listeners, had not broke you open to know your true self and how strong you are and how truly valuable you are. I mean, I think we all live in really small worlds, right? And there's pack animals and dens because we feel comfortable and small,
right, safe in our environment.
And when you are broken open, literally broken open, wow, isn't the world a better place because you have a wider reach? And I think that, we're super, habitual beings, right? We do it in that familiarity, even if it's not comfortable, it doesn't feel right in your gut.
Right. Even if it's not happy, even
right.
if it's something that doesn't make you happy or healthy, if it's normal and you know what to predict, you're good with it.
Yeah. And I think that that's really, I mean, you paid a high price to know your true strength and value in this world, not only to your core people, your mom and your girls, and how much they love you and need you and value you, but how much I do, how much your listeners do, how much your coworkers do, how much it's a big thing. I remember when my birth mom came to my home for the first time. It was her and my stepdad and my brother David was there, just a gift. I was so excited that I invited all my friends to meet her. She was a little overwhelmed. There was a little Bacardi and Pepsi involved in her. She was a little overwhelmed. She didn't realize how many people were in my little world in Lake Villa, right? In my little world, it was jam-packed with people. And I remember David looking on my stairway and looking at all my family pictures. And he's like, wow. He said, you seem too big for this little place. He's like, you're too big for this little place. And I didn't know at that time what that meant. And it felt a little uncomfortable. First of all, it felt a little literal. What do you mean by that? But no, I'm just kidding. Excuse me. But, it's funny. And it wasn't like, I think everyone is too big for their little, not to say that it isn't good or what you choose and makes you feel good. It's a blessing, whatever you have. If it's a blessing, it's a blessing. But for me, I love this feeling of being here with you and knowing and shipping my artwork all over the world. And I love the fact that I have a bigger reach now. And that wouldn't have happened had I not been a little on the miserable side.
Right, exactly. And that was a struggle. And you brought up another thing, and you can tell me to shush and then we can pretend I didn't say it. Is that there was another, you brought up your birth mom coming here.
Mm-hmm.
So you had a little bit of a shattering moment when you were 40, correct?
Yeah, my mom and dad told me I was adopted when I was 39 years old. Happy birthday. But yeah, and you know.
And how did that feel? I mean, was that a moment where you were a little crushed?
You know, Lisa, it wasn't crushed. It was Kent, you know, talking back to your grandma and grandpa, we were raised with a very, very, very strong sense of being Danish. My grandpa was a Danish immigrant. He was a stowaway on a ship, and he was the great, you know, one of the great loves of my life. And I just thought about him 2 days ago, taking Rocker out. Grandpa Nielsen, he was the best guy. So just circling back to what you said, my whole town knew I was adopted, and everyone kind of knew I was adopted, but my sister Nikki and I. And what I felt from that, waking up in the morning, I looked in the mirror and I didn't know what I was. I didn't know that I was Danish anymore. That was the shattering point of it. And that was the driver to finding my birth mom, was finding who I was, what I was. And it's funny how nationality plays a big part in your life. And I don't know, it was just, that was the big thing. But it was a moment of clarity for me. It was a moment of, I guess I'm not as weird as I thought I was. And then it was in not loving either family any more or any less, or being grateful for any family either more or being less. But finding her was a link to who I am on the inside, because I am her on the inside.
Yep.
And to me, you partially just described grace. It was, because at 39 to find that out, I'm sure there was some anger involved, some frustration involved. And seeing that, recognizing that, looking in the mirror, saying, hey, you know what, who am I? There's a lot of emotions, I'm sure, that come to the surface, and you had to flow through. But being able to then look at it and go, okay, now what do I do with this?
Right.
What can this bring me? Versus living in the victimhood and the anger and the spite. And then I remember when you met them, you said, I felt my people. Like,
yeah,
like it just, they felt like family, you know.
Yeah,
as soon as you met them, that it was an instant rapport. And the grace in your statement to me was when you said, and then realizing I love both families. So not holding an anger or resentment, because 39 is a little late in life to find out that you're adopted. And then, you know, to find out that everybody else knew around you, you know what I mean, for so many years. And that to me is grace, and saying, you know what, but this is the situation at hand. This is what happened. And yes, I felt all these things, but I've looked in the mirror and said, okay, how does this reflect for me, and what do I do with it? And being able to do it without anger and without victimhood and without spite, but to instead say, okay, what do I do with this that's in front of me, and turning it into something that's a blessing?
Right. And now I have two families to love, and two completely different, excuse me, completely different families, completely different philosophies, completely different approaches to life, completely different. You know, I experienced the best in every family, right? You experience the best and the worst, and the good and the bad, and the elation and the sorrow, and you experience them from both perspectives. And it's an exciting thing. And for me, and I know that everybody has not had this experience with their adoption and their adopted life and different things, but for me, I am so happy to be a part of both families. And she and my brothers and my sister and my nieces and nephews, when I look at them, I can't tell you, just talking about appreciating the little things in life. When I look at my niece Aislinn, I see myself. We look exactly alike. I think I never had my own children, but I think it's what a mom feels when she looks at her children, like someone that looks like you.
There
So
I am.
for all of you people who have children, today look at your babies and see yourself in them and know that not everybody has that experience. And it seems like such a thing. You look at your kids every day or you look at the way they walk. My brother-in-law Jim and my niece Kelly, they have the exact same walk when they walk away. It's genetics. And it seems like a small thing, but the first time I looked in that child's eyes and felt their hair, I just couldn't believe how happy it made me.
Absolutely.
And
Little things.
it's finding the blessings out of the difficulties or out of we have a choice. We can become bitter or we can become better, right?
Mhm.
I mean, that's
Yeah.
really kind of what life comes down to when things kick us in the teeth.
Morning,
And
Denise.
sometimes, that moment of kick in the teeth that you might have heard at 39, you had two choices to go with that.
Yep.
And you took one.
And
Yeah.
Denise Maple, good morning.
Good morning, Denise.
Nadine says, Jules, you are such an inspiration. I love you, lady. So proud to call you my friend. And all the way from Singapore, good evening, Mr. Gary.
Hi, Gary.
And Shana says, I'm sure the 23andMe craze caused some urgency for your parents.
It was way before that, Shayna. It was way before that. And it's a long story, and I should probably do some sort of a weird podcast on it. But yeah, it was long before that. And for me, it was a blessing, and certainly not for everybody. And I understand that. But I would encourage anybody to, and this is another thing. If anyone listening is on this journey, finding your birth parents or your birth mom or whatever, I wrote, when I found her, long story short, when I found her online, I wrote her a letter. She's a teacher, so I wrote in my very best penmanship. And I sent all my skinniest 3/4 view pictures. Because I figured I had one shot to make a big impression, right? I met my husband at the post office to have him proofread the letter, and I didn't know how long it took. Yeah, I was made in Alaska. I didn't know how long it took mail to get to Alaska. I mean, I was in Lake Villa, you know what I mean? And he read the letter, and we put it in the post office, and he said, Jules, just remember, if you never hear from her, your life will never change. You still have me, you still have Amber, you still have your mom and dad and all your friends that love you. So it can only add to your life the chance you're taking. And what a great perspective. So take the chance. It can only add. You still have what you have. Take the chance.
Yes. Allow yourself to open up the world.
Yeah.
And I love that story because I do remember when you went to go meet them and how it was. And the perspective of it for me is, again, there's so many people who live in a world of anger and spite. And had you held on to anger and spite and shock, and people who don't know what Lake Villa, Illinois is, where we grew up, it's like a box. It's just it's literally a little tiny town. It's grown quite a bit now, but not when we were there. I
Box
grew up
full
in
of love.
Lindenhurst, which is butted up to Lake Villa, which probably the two of them together made a whole town back then. And to know what was going on and to know those things and to not hold on to all those angers, like I said, to me, that's what grace is. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to feel the emotions. I'm sure that there was a lot of anger and resentment and, wondering and a lot of things that came up, but the grace of letting that go and saying, okay, now, just like Chris said, okay, now this is what you've got, and you've got what you've got, and there's no harm done in this besides the possibility of opening, and why not take the risk? And I think that if people could allow themselves, it's funny, somebody asked me last week on the phone, I think I brought this up last week, how do you help a person get past anger? And I tell them, okay, let's be angry. You give anger permission because it's a rightful feeling. And then once you allow it to show itself and not have shame, it kind of fades and makes space, and like I said, I'm sure going back those years, there was some anger in there. Denise Maple grew up in Lakeville too. Yeah, she's a Lakevillian.
Yeah, we
Um,
love Lakeville people.
and you had to make space by letting that go, and it proves that you did let it go, because even when you met them and there was such a bond, you said, and I love both.
Yeah.
You didn't abandon the ones that you felt betrayed by at the beginning, and run away. You just said, okay, you know what, I'll love both. And that's what kind of breaking the heart open does. It makes space for more if we let it happen.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know. I feel like allowing anger and feeling it helps you work through it, but you have to label that anger temporary, right? You have to look at it as a temporary state. And you know how, like, when you run a 5K, anybody can do anything for 45 minutes. You know what I mean? It's like that. Like, I can be angry and I can feel it and I can be sad or feel whatever all those feelings are, but those are temporary, because I'm going to work through that and find a better way. And if you go into that feeling with that attitude, even though at the time it's very hard to look at it like that, because you always feel like you're going to get stuck in the muck and the mire of it. But in your soul, if you know it's a temporary state, you can get through anything.
And any person will leave any state the moment that getting out of it becomes more important than staying in it.
It's essential. It's essential to look at these things as temporary states.
But I call it the tipping of the scales. At some point it says, this is so uncomfortable and I'm so tired of being this way and feeling this way, that now I'm going to finally take the steps to not. And that's when the scales start to tip. And that's kind of what I mean by the whole deciding what you don't want. Because when somebody's getting out of, let's say, an anger state or anger phase, maybe it's been a long time since they have felt joy or happiness or what have you. So when you say those words to them, they don't recognize that feeling anymore. So they don't have to know what they want to feel. They only know that they don't want to feel this.
Right.
And so by saying, I don't want to feel this, but I'm not sure what I want to feel, you say, okay, no, I know I don't want this, so I'm going to set it over here. Now, what else is there? What am I feeling? What feels good? And kind of rediscovering that. And that was my point, kind of. And to do this is to say, it's okay to not know what you want. That's fine. Just flip it. Know what you don't want.
Yeah, that's the nugget.
By knowing what you don't want, you still took off half your list.
Yeah, it's true.
Totally true. You're still looking for less. You're still narrowing down the path by knowing what you don't want. And anger and emotions and holding spite. If you choose to remain angry, or you choose to be the victim, or you choose to say all of these things happened to me, you can choose that. It's a rightful choice. But at some point, I've talked to people who have been in that state for a long period of time, and just, and Chris isn't an angry person, but the answer is similar. Well, what is it that you'd rather feel? I don't know. Okay. And they're like, well, what should I feel? Oh, I don't know. If you don't know, how do I know? I only know that I heard you say you don't want to feel this. So let's see why you do and not anymore.
Yeah.
And then it's just an open book. It's kind of, if I serve Kent a plate with some food samples on it, and he says, I know I don't like this, this, and this, and he pushes those off the plate to the side, what did he do? He just made room for when the next set comes in to put something else on there. He does.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's important, excuse me, I think it's important to say, don't take things you don't like. Don't. I mean,
but we have to identify what those are first.
That's exactly right.
Because sometimes things we don't like or that are not good for us, we will accept because they feel familiar.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. And I think that's really
familiar, and familiarity is comfort, but that does not mean it is good for you or makes you happy. So that's the other benefit to saying, what don't I want, and recognizing what I don't want. And I think that that's just as important as the whole envisioning what we do want, is making space by alleviating what we don't.
Right.
What are we sure of? And even like with the house, and trying to buy the house this year, when I catch myself getting into old habits that spend, or, acquiring things that I don't need, I now stop myself and go, wait a minute. Does this get me to my goal? Is this something I want to take with me? Would I want to pack this? Is this something that I need to have for my goal? And it's important to me because it gets me back on track. Because what I've said is when I move, I will not move the nightmare. Kent knows what I'm talking about because he just recently did it. Like, so okay, if your goal is to move into the house and you know that this is going to be soon, break those habits and stop that cycle of comfort of buying, I'm crystals and stones and my God. And okay, I love that, but does this get me towards my goal? Do I need this? Do I want to pack this? Do I want, and it breaks those comfort zones that I've decided I don't want to be in.
And those old habits.
To be in this situation, and to get to this situation, I need to break these habits. So I just start questioning, does it get me there? Doesn't it get me there? Is this something that you want?
Yeah. My niece, Jamie, she graduated from Notre Dame and she bought me this plaque and it says, go confidently in the direction of your dreams. And that's what you're doing. I have it on my bathroom vanity. Every morning I look at it, and every time I go in there, I look at it and I think, wow, and you're right. How much baggage do you want to take to your dream?
Right.
It's hard to move confidently if you're carrying all this stuff.
Right. And let's say I use the house as an example, but it's similar to life in general and emotions. How much baggage do you want to carry to your dream? Right. And how much do you want to leave behind? And sometimes, again, deciding what we don't need and what we don't want and what isn't serving us a purpose is as valuable as knowing what we're searching for and going for it and saying it. Because if we're lugging all this gunk with us, how much stuff did you move, Kent, that you didn't really, when you finally got it to the new house, you went, we didn't have to bring this?
So far, we've filled 5 decent sized boxes and sent them to donations.
And that was after doing it at the old house too, right?
Ish. Well, the interesting thing is, as you're packing all that stuff up in the old space, whether it's life or you're moving,
you feel the energy of it there.
You do, and it still has a purpose there.
Yes.
When you create a new space or you get to that new space, now it goes, I don't know where this goes, and do I really need it?
Voila!
Right? Yeah.
As with everything in life.
Yeah.
Literally, yeah. Thank you. That was kind of, I was hoping we were gonna.
What, Kent?
Go there.
I don't have notes either. So.
Kent, that is an enlightened state, though.
Absolutely.
Not everybody understands or realizes that. I know, people will take boxes of stuff from place to place to place because they can't let go or whatever. So, Kent, that's an aha moment. That's an enlightened state you're living in. I hope you take that as a compliment.
Well, I do, but the other part of that, I think, is we have to force ourselves to dig out, right? So we've got boxes still all over our house. We moved in on the 15th of December, and if we don't force ourselves or kind of give ourselves a timeline, then those boxes could just sit for a long time.
But isn't that the same with our goals on anything? Exactly. It's still the same statement. We may have to force ourselves. Like if you want to get out of debt, there will come times when you're tired of doing the work that it takes to do that and you want to go to get something comfortable. So you have to make a decision. Does this get me to my goal or doesn't it? And if you go buy it anyway, then you already do. You are free to make those choices that are best for you, but we are not free of our consequences. Hence our world right now. Mm-hmm. I want to have the freedom to make my free will choices, but if they end up being wrong, I want you to pay for them. Nope, that's not how the world goes. And so we have to sit and decide, who are we? What are we really looking for? And take accountability for those. And I give permission for the people who say, who I am right now is angry. Okay, be angry.
Right now.
Be angry. I will always say, with exception to causing harm to another.
Yeah.
Be angry. Be angry. Feel it. Bring it up. Let it be. Let's just be angry. And what happens, this is a true thing, and I've seen it a million times. After a few minutes of that acceptance, even minutes, literally in the office of just that acceptance of, okay, let's be angry. Let's feel it. Be angry. And you give that permission, all of a sudden they're like, well, I don't want to feel like this. But you said you were angry. You said you wanted to be angry. So let's be angry. Let's do that. Well, but I don't want to. Oh, you don't want to anymore. Okay. What do you want to be now? And it's funny because it's almost like giving permission says, oh, well, I don't have anything to prove anymore. She understands that I'm angry.
Right.
She hears that I'm angry. She feels that I'm angry. I don't have to shout my pain anymore. Oh, all right, then I'm not going to do it this way. And it's literally, you can literally kind of see the lotus blossom open.
Yeah.
And see it start to happen. And the same thing with shame and guilt. You know, people will come in with shame and guilt and I'll go, oh yeah, why'd you do that? Can't believe you did that.
So,
oh my God, you really did that? And I'll kind of just repeat back to them, mirror back to them what they're saying. You know, like, oh yeah, God, why didn't you do? Oh, geez. And I'll just mirror it. I don't say anything or offer any advice. I literally just mirror what they're saying back to them. And then all of a sudden I'll go, huh. What? Yeah. But I was hearing you. I was just making sure that I was hearing you. I wanted you to know I understood you. Well, what I'm saying doesn't make sense when you say it back to me. Oh, it doesn't? Why not? What doesn't make sense about it? I was just trying to understand you. Well, because when I say X, Y, and Z, that's not logical. Oh, it's not. And literally just allowing someone to be exactly who they are in the state that they are and allow them to bring it out. They have now realized in that moment what? Oh, I don't want to feel this anyway. I don't want to feel this anymore. I don't like what this feels like. I don't want to be guilty and shameful anymore. Well, what do you want to be? Well, I don't know. Okay, great. But now you have space. Perfect. So it's kind of like moving, cleaning the house. Now I have space. I have my new environment. Ken's in his new home, right? So he says the things from my old space I brought with, and I went, oh, wait, this doesn't work in my new space. This doesn't work in my new me, my new life, my new world, my new view, my new perspective. I'm going to let it go now. I didn't realize I needed to let it go when I was there. But now in this new space, I'm like, hey, this doesn't have a place here anymore. I'm grateful for what it brought me, but I don't need that anymore. Isn't that life? Isn't that our hearts? Isn't that our views? Isn't that our goals? Isn't that our dreams? Just allowing literally that truth. Now, Kent, those things that you decided you didn't need in your new space, okay, because it didn't fit in your new space, are you less grateful that they were in your old space?
No.
And are you grateful you had them for the time that you had them because of what they offered and brought you?
Absolutely.
Voila. Hence emotions, people, relationships, situations. Mm-hmm. How is it any different? We're allowed to go to a new space. We're allowed to go to a space that fulfills us, that helps us grow, that makes us change. And if we have to leave people, places, or things behind in that, it does not mean we value them less. It just means that they chose or didn't fit or didn't become a part of where we were headed. That's it.
Amen.
But if we drag the baggage, what if you wouldn't have got rid of those things and tried to fit stuff for your new space in your house?
Right.
What would happen? You'd have a clustered, chaotic environment, right?
Yes.
You'd have a hoarding situation.
Yes.
If we tried to keep the old house, everything from the old house, because we don't want to let it go, but we want new. We wanted new, right? We wanted a new house, so we went and bought a new house. And we wanted new space, and we needed more space. We decided we were going to grow our view of this. And if we brought every single thing from the old space and then said, and we need all these things to create our new space and put them in there, what do you have? You have chaos. You have chaos.
And a lot of stuff to dust.
Yeah. So you have to decide what's coming with, what needs to come with to the new space. What do I need for the new space? And then sometimes when we're in the new space and we're feeling the new energy of the new space and we're looking around to create this new space, we go, hey, you know what? I thought we were going to need this, but it really just doesn't have a place here anymore. It doesn't fit for the vibe I'm going for. So we let it go. But we're just as grateful that we always had it. There was a learning or a need or a desire or something fulfilled from it. But we can't bring everything with us everywhere we go and expect to grow and not have chaos. It's really mentally, emotionally, in life, in physical form, the moving, it's just the same. And the mental, emotional baggage is the same. So in that situation, point being, you had to make a decision of what you no longer needed or wanted so that you could then remove it, so that now as you're creating your space, you have space for what fits now in your world. Voila.
How about that?
How about that? Isn't it amazing?
And it's a weird feeling, right, ladies? There's a sense of relief, I guess, but also of, oh,
Because it
uh,
carried a space in your heart.
yeah,
It carried a space in your life.
yeah,
And you're making space and removing something. You still, I mean, there's a little bit of a comfort or a warmth that it brought,
yeah,
but there's also an excitement of thank you for what you brought. And I mean, the house, or that was kind of the point I was getting at with my husband. It broke my heart for him not to be in my life anymore, and I felt his loss. But it brought space to say, what will you put in that space now?
yeah.
What do you see that you didn't do, have, feel, or what have you? What did he teach you? What did he bring to your life? What were the blessings? Good and bad. There's going to be both.
Well,
And then what mixture do I want to make that space that just got emptied full?
yeah, and I know, interestingly enough too, is in this process, you come across pictures. So I take a look at a picture of my three oldest kids who are adults now as kids, and you look at that and go, oh man, to go back there, and but then you're right. I find myself questioning, all right, what did I learn? Because I'm proud of them as adults. They're
Right.
they're great humans, and they lead great lives and do a lot of good things. But there's that part of me that goes, I want to go back there.
Nostalgia.
Yeah.
Right, because there was a love and a warmth there. That's a natural draw and feeling, and that's a memory, and that's okay. The But you're not locked into it, and that's where some people get, where they get locked in, that they so insistent that they miss that so much and that they have to recreate something that isn't there. And we talked about that about me mourning Christmas, because I finally went, okay, Lisa, you haven't celebrated Christmas since 2014, and I was such a holiday person. And I went, what are you missing? What are you searching for that you can't find that's always such a disappointment? And it was like, oh, my kids being little into my husband. Well, my kids are grown and my husband died. So it was just allowing in that reality of the loss. Okay, okay, I'm going to accept that now. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to feel it. I'm going to mourn it. And I'm going to realize that that's going to be a treasured snow globe of life. And now next year is going to be, who am I now? What am I now? And I just had this conversation with my mom, because when my kids were growing up, I ran the animal hospitals, and we had 3 dogs, 3 cats, 2 kids. I worked full time. My husband worked full time. I was the room mom. Like, it was just go, 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 go all the time. I did a radio back then too. And go, 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 go. And now it's just me and my cat. And every now and then I think about getting a dog. And I laugh and I told my mom, I go, I'm kind of in a space in life where I don't want to take care of anything. I mean, I take care of my cat, but I don't want to bring something into my space that I have to take care of, because I miss those times. But in my morning moment, and I allowed it, I realized I do miss those times. But what don't I want is I don't want to take care of anything else right now. I want my freedom to just be me right now. You know what I mean? So I love those things. I treasure those things. I miss those things. But I know now I don't have to be heartbroken about those things, because there are aspects of it I no longer need. And now I can make space to go. That was the mourning the holidays for me.
You've graduated from it. You've graduated.
Absolutely. But you have to realize it and you have to take the time to face it because there's a lot of snot crying in there.
I can verify that.
There's a lot of ugly cry going on. So Kent's giving us the finger, which means there's 1 minute left for us to specify. So thank you for joining us today again. If you want to find Julie, she's at julieadriansonart.com. Go check out her absolutely fabulous, beautiful work. And let her do a portrait of your pet or family member. She's done some people too, so you can look on there. But I call her an aura painter, whether she likes it or not. So go check out her work in the beautiful colors. Thank you for joining us, everybody. Don't beat yourself up. Like you said, just find what you don't want. If you don't know what it is you do, make the list of what you don't want.
Thanks, Wendy.
So I love everybody. I hope you have a great Sunday. If you're in this area, be careful on the ice today. And we will see you next week. And don't forget, anybody who's dealing with a family member in addiction or knows somebody who's dealing with family member addiction, please tell them to make sure if they don't listen any other time, which I hope they do, to please tune in on February 6th to hear Barbara Decker from Love Another Way. I'm so excited that she's coming. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.